Okay, so like one of the main things that we need to internalize is that men have a better communication level through their intellect, while women more communicate through the heart. Or we could also say, in other words, that the masculine part in us, because we all have a masculine and feminine, the masculine part in us is communicating better from the intellectual side of our brain, and the feminine part of us interacts better or communicates better from the heart. This is why we say, it says, Shma beni musar avicha ve'al titosh torat imecha. So it's actually interesting. It doesn't say Shma beni Torat Avicha. It says Shma beni Musar Avicha, meaning that there is Musar is something much harsher than Torah. Torah refers to the word learning, but Musar refers to the word or translates as um, talking off someone, like talking you off, talking like in a harsher way, like not even preaching, harsher than preaching. What would be the word? Um, like a harsh.
Commanding?
No, not commanding, but like giving musar, giving a rebuke, giving rebuke.
Okay.
So the masculine part talks about rebuke, while the feminine part talks about Torah. Now, what's learning? Torah is learning, right? So, what's learning? Let's break it down. Learning is where something happens and another thing happens, and you make one plus one, and you realize next time I'm going to behave this and that way because I don't want the same results or the same consequences next time. So you're learning. That's Torah is evolving. This is why we have Torah Shabbat and Torah Shabbat. You have what you can learn, which is more like the musar of the father, the masculine rebuke, which is basically the world is telling you, don't do this, do that. If you want good results, good consequences, don't do this, do that. But nothing is good enough until you work it out inside yourself that that rebuke is correct, right? The Torah, your own Torah Shabbat Peh, that you work out that it got some good bad results into my life. I don't want to behave that way again, right? I know that okay, it's hard for me maybe not to turn on my phone on Shabbat. But I know it's also much better for me when I meet with my friends on Shabbat. It's a totally different way of saying it, right? I don't want to turn on the phone on Shabbat because I'm going to be punished by God or whatever. Or I don't want to turn on the phone on Shabbat because I want to meet with my friends and I just want to spend quality time with my loved ones. And right? So now what's sitting in your heart? Not like something is going to go wrong, not like somebody's going to punish you, but something good is going to happen. So it becomes your own Torah, Shabbat Peh, right? So now if you take it to relationships between men and women, right? So it says, so we know that men are commanded to learn Torah. Women are not commanded to learn Torah, but in our times, women are learning much more Torah than ever before, probably. And women are so learned and so Torah schooled. And so, like the Torah Timecha is waking up. We no longer only have the Musar Avicha, but we have the Torah Timecha. We have that aspect of like understanding the Torah from a deeper place, from within our hearts, right? And when men and women talk to each other, then men don't have, or the masculine, again, I don't want to say men, I don't want to generalize, even though there is a certain aspect or a percentage of generalization, but the masculine part in us talks through here, through the head, or through, I should say, the thinking brain, while what we were saying that the feminine brain is talking more from our heart place,
Right.
an intuitive place. And that's where the main breakup between men and women are. So what do we do? Right? So sometimes you get a man who talks in a much more feminine language. And sometimes you get a woman who talks in a much more masculine language. But if we go back a bit to the generalization, if men and women want to do it a bit better,
Yeah.
then sometimes talking through learning something together, reading something together, even watching a podcast together about relationships or whatever, about communication skills, and discussing it will bring us to a much deeper communication between us. Now there's this whole thing now, I saw it in a billion different variations, right? There's um, cards, play cards for, couples to discuss all the things that are not, what you need to get in the grocery store, or, like, what is it that we were talking about when we were first dating each other? Right? How come we forgot to talk about all those things? How come we only talk about our errands and, what was at work and whatever, and who insulted me at work or what I did well at work or whatever, right? Where are all these fascinating conversations we used to have that made us bond? Maybe they were never there. Maybe we just strived. Maybe our relationship only strived on the newness of it. And once the newness of, somebody's paying attention to me, somebody's giving me 1% of love, and I'm already flying in the air because they're giving me a bit of love. It could be that. It could be that, like my self esteem was so low back then that 1% of love was enough to cover all my emotional needs. But once I got used to that 1% or 10% or 50% wasn't enough anymore. And now I'm bored with it. And now I'm unhappy with it. And now we need to figure out a way to either reinvent our relationship or to go our ways.
How many couples come? This happens so slowly over time. How many couples become aware of how the relationship now compares to how it was at the beginning? It's
Apparently, a very small percentage of couples, if we're talking about 80% of the people who don't get divorced, living in an emotional divorce, right?
we
So,
don't remember
right,
so many years
right.
ago or whatever, or was so
But to,
disappointed or worn down emotionally.
right. But together with that, we have so much innovation around how, and good advice,
Yes, you're right.
good products, good
Yes.
books, good podcasts,
Yes.
good advice
Yes.
on how to reinvent and how to understand relationships on a deeper level.
Then the couple has to be willing to put in the time and effort that
Right.
it takes
Right.
to learn,
Right.
to figure
For sure.
out what
For
it
sure.
is in the relationship that can be enhanced.
Right. And I'll add to that it could start from one of the sides. One of the parties can start by putting in the effort, and maybe the other person will get on the wagon. But after a little while, you'll be so starved and deprived of your oxytocin and so choked by your levels of cortisol, then it might be much better for you to be alone than to be in that relationship.
I know. But I've come to the stage in my life where I feel like there are just certain things that you have to put in your priorities. There are certain things you have to stop expecting from your partner, and there are certain things that you're going to have to put more value on. I've learned that the hard way.
Right.
Right? You can't necessarily get this, but this person is capable of giving you this. Right. You're not even capable of giving.
Right. And you're going to have to choose if whatever they're able to give is good enough for you and not get frustrated with it for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Right.
And I think that's what's, having reached this age in my life and seen couples who are still together at this stage of life, I believe they made that decision somewhere along the way.
Right. And it's interesting to know that actually younger couples now are getting divorced less than 20 years ago. And older couples are getting divorced more, above 50, I mean, are getting divorced more than 20 years ago.
Why is that? That's interesting.
I think that I think that the younger couple comes into a marriage with much more open eyes, that marriage will demand work. And the older couples who are very old schooled with, like, like, you know, what did they teach us back then? You know, go figure out if you have some common hobbies, or, you know, talk about music, talk about your hobbies, talk about what you want to do in life. And, you know, if that attracts you, then that's good enough. And it's not, because really what we need to talk about is like your trauma, my trauma. Are we bonding over trauma? Am I attracted to you because you're giving me that 1% that I was lacking at home? And now you're giving me that 1%, which looks like a million, but it's in very soon it's going to wear out and it's not going to be what I need. And now
Also,
we're being taught that much better. So the younger generation already knows that. The older generation is just waking up to it because it's a revolution that happened over the last 10 years or so.
I think also that women are now able to support themselves.
Also,
But they've come to the realization that they're capable of supporting themselves.
right,
The younger couples are raising a family.
right.
You know, it's a different stage of life. Like, I want different things out of a relationship now than I did when I was
Right.
younger.
And I don't want to encourage anybody to get divorced, but
No,
if you've
so we're
gone
talking
through,
in general.
if you've gone through therapy, and you've gone, I mean, serious therapy and serious learning about what relationships are, and serious quest in your heart of what it is that you need, that's the most important thing. Have you really gone through a serious quest of what you need, and is it realistic? And what is it
Definitely.
that's good in your marriage versus what is it that's bad in your marriage?
Yeah.
If you are living in that place of like, everything is bad in my marriage, there are people like that, but I feel like it's a very subjective way of putting it into words. There's something good in your marriage. Some people provide, some people are a good parent to your children, some people you have fun going to your weekly whatever, mutual whatever, dancing or whatever it is, right? For some people I know, you know, like I know couples, you'd be surprised, but I know even older couples who, like older, like 60s, 70s, that their sex life is still holding them together, even though emotionally there's nothing there, believe it or not. And for some people, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
There's something emotional there, but their sexual frustration is really, really hard for them or for one of the parties. So it's like usually what I've seen is every couple has something else in common and something else that is destructive to their relationship. And you need to go through that and give the percentage of weight that
Weigh and
each
measure.
element exactly is holding in your needs. And then figure out, you know, am I willing to live with it and stop getting frustrated at the last? Or is it too much to live with it? And then there's no point in dragging it out, because it's much harder to get divorced in your mid 60s than it is in your 50s. In your 50s, you still have a chance to rebuild yourself financially, to whatever. You still have much more strength, much more vitality than you do in your 60s or
Gotta
70s.
throw those health issues in that become an
Right.
issue as we get older.
Right. Right.
You know, it's like you go from when you're younger, you're taking care of your kids. When
Right.
you're older, you're taking care of each other. It's different.
Right. And for some people, what's holding them together is the grandchildren, or the
Yeah,
fun that they're having with the grandchildren.
definitely.
You know, and it's really hard for them to give up on that family time, even though the relationship has nothing. But the children, or at some stage it's the children, at another stage it's the grandchildren, and
They both get a lot of joy out of just
yes, and the rest of the time they live like two roommates. And there's different.
But that's something.
But you need to really go through that quest of genuinely asking yourself all those questions, and not just think from your heart, but think from your brain. Sometimes we get carried away with thinking with our hearts. Our hearts are very important, but our brains, we need to put that into that consideration also.
Well, they both have to kind of be
Mutual.
in synergy.
Right, exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
they have to be in synergy, because
Right.
you're going to need the support of both in order to be able to move forward.
Right. Just like our body and soul
Yes.
need to be in synergy, right?
Yes.
It's like our body and soul are not two different entities.
No.
Our biology, our nutrition, we are what we eat. Our nutrition changes who we are. our nutrition inflicts our emotions,
Yeah.
and our emotions inflict our physiological state of mind or health, you know? So it's like and it has to be all supportive of each other all the time. We need to be mindful of our nutrition, mindful of our exercise, mindful of our relationships, because they all influence each other.
Definitely, definitely. And just to realize that, be aware that our needs change
Right,
in different stages of life.
right,
You know, what we really want, and to hold on to the same expectations may not be practical.
right. And we need to ask ourselves, you know, like, am I getting more cortisol in this relationship or more oxytocin? Am I getting more love hormone, which keeps me vital? Or am I getting more cortisol, which makes me
Stress.
stressful? That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. I think it all goes down to there. Ask yourself, if you're at the verge of staying or going, leaving, ask yourself, are you getting more cortisol or more oxytocin?
Hmm. Also,